Millions of gun owners woke up to a bombshell this week. The ATF is once again rewriting the rules of the game. A leaked email from the agency claims that any pistol with a stabilizing brace must now be registered as a short-barreled rifle, a move that could turn countless law-abiding citizens into felons overnight. This might sound like old news, just confusing regulations, but really it's a lot more than that. Government overreach, blatant disregard for court orders, brazen attempt to intimidate responsible gun owners, etc. In this video, we'll talk about the ATF's latest declaration, the legal chaos it's created, and what it means for you. We'll dissect the leaked email, the court rulings it openly defies, and the growing resistance from gun rights advocacy groups. Most importantly, we'll explain why this matters and how you can protect yourself against these ever-shifting rules. The saga of stabilizing braces is a glaring example of bureaucratic overreach and inconsistency. Originally designed to assist disabled shooters, these devices were intended to provide additional support, enabling safer and more accurate one-handed firing of heavy pistols. The concept was straightforward: enhance accessibility for all shooters, particularly those with physical limitations. Yet, what began as an inclusive innovation has morphed into a convoluted regulatory nightmare. The NFA mandates that rifles with barrels shorter than 16 inches be classified as SBRs, subjecting them to stringent registration requirements and a $200 tax stamp. Let's pause here for a minute. I want to call it what it is: bureaucratic overreach based on stupid, flawed logic. The idea that reducing a rifle's barrel length by a few inches suddenly transforms it into a covert weapon of mass destruction is ludicrous. An AR-15 with a 16-inch barrel isn't exactly a pocket pistol, and chopping off a couple of inches doesn't make it any easier to conceal, regardless of how you try to transport it. The overall length difference between a carbine and an SBR is negligible because the barrel is only one of three components that occupy the whole length of the rifle. Cutting the barrel only affects the barrel, not the entire gun, because the receiver and the stock both remain bulky. Let's do some quick math for the geniuses at the ATF. The overall length difference between a 16-inch barreled AR-15 with a 32.5-inch overall and a 12-inch barreled SBR with a 28.75-inch overall length is a laughable 11.54% shorter. Meanwhile, the difference between the same 16-inch carbine and a 7.5-inch barreled AR-15 with a 26.5-inch overall length is 18.46% shorter. What the geniuses at the ATF doesn't realize is that saving a mere 4 to 6 inches doesn't magically make these firearms concealable. Think about it. If you stuff each of these rifles under a trench coat, they will all fit nicely. The shorter-barreled ones don't offer any advantages. How about a big shoulder bag? Again, all three can fit, and the few inches saved on the SBRs aren't making anyone less conspicuous when they pull a full-sized rifle from their tote. Now, let's talk sweaters. Do they seriously think we can an SBR in a sweater just because it's 18.46% shorter? It's laughable. The SBRs have zero advantage for concealment in these scenarios. This is the ATF's hill to die on, an arbitrary obsession with barrel length that doesn't affect real-world concealability. They know it, we know it. Heck, if we do a little digging, every active shooter who's carried a rifle has used a bag or case to transport it. Doesn't matter if it's a 16-inch carbine or a 7.5-inch SBR, throw it in a duffel bag, backpack, or a guitar case, and boom, it's concealed. Barrel length doesn't factor into the equation. Think about it. Whether it's an SBR or a full-size AR-15, the moment you put it in a bag, the whole concealability argument falls apart. The slight difference in length between a carbine and an SBR makes zero practical difference when the weapon isn't out in the open anyway. So why does the ATF insist on treating SBRs like they're some kind of super soldier weapon that needs a $200 tax and all the red tape under the NFA? It's outdated and makes no sense. SBRs on the surface might seem like the cool, compact cousins of standard carbines, but let's talk about the trade-offs. When you shorten the barrel, especially depending on the caliber and muzzle device, you're in for a louder bang and a brighter flash. That shorter barrel doesn't give the expanding gases as much time to cool and dissipate, so when they exit, it's like a mini fireworks show, right in your face. And let's not forget about recoil. With less weight at the front end to counteract the backward force, SBRs can kick more than their longer-barreled counterparts. It's physics. Less mass means less inertia to absorb the recoil, so you feel more of it in your shoulder. SBRs look badass, but really they suck in a lot of scenarios. The only real edge an SBR has over a carbine or any longer-barreled AR-15 is better maneuverability. In close-quarters battle scenarios, where clearing rooms quickly and efficiently is key, SBRs definitely outperform their carbine and DMR counterparts. But let's be honest here. The penalties and restrictions on SBRs are totally unnecessary and unfair to law-abiding gun owners. These rules don't make anyone safer. They just punish people for owning a rifle that's a few inches shorter. The whole thing is ridiculous, yet the ATF keeps acting like SBRs are some kind of massive public safety threat. This isn't about stopping crime, it's about control. The NFA's obsession with barrel length is an outdated policy that targets law-abiding gun owners based on arbitrary numbers. It's long overdue for us to push back against these nonsensical regulations and demand rules that actually respect our Second Amendment rights. But I digress. It's already absurd that SBRs are an NFA item and require a $200 tax stamp. It's even worse that stabilizing braces are lumped into the same category as SBRs. It's not just illogical, it's idiotic. These braces were not designed to convert pistols into rifles, but to aid in stability and control. The ATF's shifting stance on this issue has only added to the confusion. In 2012, the ATF initially determined that attaching a stabilizing brace to a pistol did not alter its classification under federal law. This decision provided clarity and assurance to manufacturers and consumers alike. However, the agency's position has since fluctuated, leading to widespread uncertainty. In January 2023, the ATF introduced the factoring criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces rule, aiming to clarify when a firearm equipped with a stabilizing brace should be classified as an SBR. Instead of providing clarity, this rule has further muddied the waters, leaving gun owners and manufacturers in a state of perpetual uncertainty. The ATF's erratic approach to regulating stabilizing braces is not just frustrating, it's emblematic of a broader issue within the agency. The lack of clear guidelines and the tendency to shift positions without adequate justification undermine public trust and complicate compliance efforts. Gun owners are left in a precarious position, trying to navigate an ever-changing regulatory landscape without clear direction. As we delve deeper into this issue, it's crucial to examine the specific communications and actions that have led to the current state of affairs. The leaked email from the ATF. That's what started all this. This single communication, which surfaced on social media, boldly claimed that any pistol equipped with a stabilizing brace must now be classified as a short-barreled rifle. This declaration was not a casual suggestion, but a definitive statement that contradicted both existing federal rulings and court injunctions designed to block the ATF from enforcing such rules. It wasn't just the content of the email that caused outrage. It was the audacity to bypass legal boundaries entirely. The email's phrasing was both alarming and vague. It stated that federal law requires a pistol with an attached stabilizing brace or stock to be registered as a short-barreled rifle. This sweeping statement disregarded the fact that multiple courts, including the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, had already issued injunctions prohibiting the enforcement of the ATF's stabilizing brace rule. By continuing to push these claims, the ATF has created a chaotic landscape for gun owners, leaving them unsure whether they're in compliance with the law or unwittingly committing a felony. What makes this email particularly frustrating is the deliberate inconsistency in its messaging. On one hand, it cites federal statutes and the ATF's own rule as justification for the classification. On the other hand, it subtly acknowledges that the rule itself cannot be enforced due to judicial prohibitions. The ATF, it seems, wants to have its cake and eat it too, making veiled threats while hiding behind the thin veneer of legalese. Adding insult to injury, the email wasn't signed by a high-ranking official, but by an anonymous staff member from the Firearms Industry Programs branch. This lack of accountability has only deepened the distrust. The overreach in this situation cannot be overstated. Federal courts have repeatedly ruled that the ATF's attempts to regulate stabilizing braces exceed its statutory authority. Yet this email represents a blatant defiance of those rulings. It appears to be a calculated attempt to intimidate gun owners, sow confusion, and push an agenda that courts have explicitly deemed illegal. By ignoring judicial orders, the ATF has not only undermined its credibility, but also eroded public confidence in the rule of law. For gun owners, the implications are dire. Millions of Americans who legally purchased and equipped stabilizing braces now face a murky legal reality. Can a federal agency openly defy court orders and expect citizens to comply with rules that lack legal standing? The leaked email raises this unsettling question and reflects the growing divide between government regulators and the people they're supposed to serve. The fallout from this email underscores the urgent need for clarity. Advocacy groups like the Gun Owners of America have already mobilized, demanding that the ATF comply with court injunctions and cease its overreach. The legal battle over the ATF's stabilizing brace rule is emblematic of a federal agency run amok. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals already issued an injunction that prohibits the enforcement of the ATF's controversial brace rule. This decision, along with similar rulings from other courts, represents a critical lifeline for millions of gun owners who could otherwise face felony charges for possessing a device that was entirely legal when purchased. The courts have made it clear that the ATF cannot unilaterally create laws or reinterpret existing ones to suit its agenda. The Fifth Circuit's ruling specifically highlighted the lack of congressional authority behind the brace rule, underscoring that the ATF's actions exceeded its statutory powers. For gun owners, this legal clarity provides a temporary reprieve, but the fight is far from over. What's frustrating is the ATF's disregard for judicial authority. Despite the court's rulings, the agency continues to push its interpretation of the law. This isn't just an affront to gun owners, it's a challenge to the very principle of separation of powers. Imagine purchasing a stabilizing brace with the assurance it was legal, only to find yourself in legal limbo due to shifting interpretations and vague rules. Millions of Americans now wonder if they're criminals because of an accessory they bought in good faith. This isn't just frustrating, it's infuriating. The confusion stems from the ATF's ever-changing stance on stabilizing braces. One year they're deemed legal without restrictions. The next, they're transforming pistols into short-barreled rifles. There was this Texas gun owner who recently recounted how he dismantled his stabilizing brace, fearing prosecution, despite his brace being fully compliant when purchased. These aren't isolated incidents. Countless gun owners are dismantling or disposing of accessories, not because of clear legal mandates, but because of fear of unknowingly violating an arbitrary rule. In reality, the ATF lacks the resources to enforce these rules on a large scale. Federal agents aren't scouring gun ranges for braced pistols, and most enforcement actions stem from other criminal investigations. However, that doesn't mean the risk isn't real. Local law enforcement often interacts with the ATF, particularly when gun charges accompany unrelated crimes. This patchwork enforcement adds another layer of uncertainty. A gun owner in one state might face no issues, while someone in another could be arrested for the same accessory. As these challenges mount, the role of advocacy groups and grassroots efforts becomes more critical than ever. The next step in this battle lies in the collective response of the firearm community and the legal actions that could finally bring clarity to this chaos. The GOA's legal team has been relentless. In collaboration with other Second Amendment advocacy groups, they've filed lawsuits that argue the ATF's brace rule violates constitutional protections and statutory limits. One prominent case involves the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, where the GOA secured an injunction blocking enforcement of the brace rule. But their work doesn't stop in the courtroom. They've also created detailed compliance guides for gun owners, explaining how to navigate the murky waters of ATF regulations without inadvertently breaking the law. The NRA has also weighed in, leveraging its influence to amplify awareness and rally gun owners. Petitions demanding the ATF's accountability have garnered thousands of signatures, showing widespread public dissent. Yet, as vital as these large organizations are, they represent just one aspect of the fight. The importance of community in this struggle cannot be overstated. Advocacy groups like the GOA and NRA provide the legal muscle, but it's we, the people who write letters, attend town halls, and educate their neighbors who create lasting change. But that's going to wrap it up for today. If you want to help the cause, share this video with your Pro2A friends and get the word out. The more people know what's going on, the stronger we are in pushing back. And if you're a fan of what we're doing here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.